Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Ship It and Sip It. Today I'm very glad to have a founder that we've been working with for the last year, Julie Landeroin from Nudge. And she was a founder in our first batch of our accelerator program and has continued to work with us since that program ended last fall. Julie, how are you doing today?
Hi, John. I'm doing great. It's great seeing you again.
Yes, and it's great to talk with you again. If you guys want to check out our earlier interviews with Jolie, they're on our YouTube account. We talked about the idea for her app, Nudge, and how the progress was made in the Paralect Accelerator last year. Today, we want to sort of revisit some of those topics and also talk about the progress that is made since the accelerator ended. So, what is the latest news on Nudge, Julie?
Well, a lot has been happening since last June. So first, I joined a big incubator in Paris, in France. Then I applied for government subsidies, and I also launched Love Money, which together allowed me to raise close to 250,000 US dollars. Um, Yay! And also, Elizabeth joined the team. So she's in charge of marketing and communication, and she's been building all our social media strategy. She's been creating our accounts, posting on them. She also asked me to say that she's the best employee of all time. So I'm not going to say it because obviously headhunters are going to run after her, and we don't want that. But she's quite the asset, to be fair. And then we ran our first pilot with the school. We got great feedback. Users are really loving the design of the app, the user friendliness. And the last thing we're working on is that we are developing new features based on that user feedback to try to bring even more value to our users.
Fantastic. And just for those in our audience who haven't watched the previous interviews with you, can you just give us the elevator pitch for Nudge? I'm sure you have some experience pitching by now. So, what is Nudge, and why are you so excited about it?
Sure. So Nudge is a networking application for college alumni communities. So basically, for every alumni in each school or university community, we're asking them what is their current main professional or personal challenge. And then our app is matching them with the top 10 most qualified people within their community to help them solve their challenge or move on with their projects.
Fantastic. All right, so now that some time has passed, what do you look back and see as the most valuable outcome from participating in the accelerator program with Paralect?
Well, the accelerator has really been a key milestone for me and for Nudge, for both, for many reasons, but I think there are two main ones. The first one is that it really gave us credibility in front of our future investors. Because once you already tell people, okay, I already have someone who invested in us, your status changes. It's like you're becoming part of that pool of funders that are 100% committed to their projects and funders that are dedicating a lot of money and time both to that project. So they know that you will do whatever it takes to achieve success. So that was really a big help for us, and we really saw the before and after working with Paralect. The second main thing is that the product that you guys built, even the MVP, already looked like the finished product. Like every time, literally every demonstration of the tool I've done with every single prospect since the beginning, the first reaction is always like, whoa, like the design looks great. It's super modern. It's super intuitive. It's user friendly. It looks like exactly like WhatsApp or Facebook, or it's like that kind of standards. So that really helped as well because even if you don't have all the features yet, at least it already looks very professional. So I would say that would be the two main ones.
Fantastic, and I will have to let our design team know, and your designers from Nudge about that feedback, and I'm sure you've told them as well. But that's great to hear. Um, and I want to talk a little bit now about your experience as a founder, because a lot of social networks and a lot of founders on social networks are glorifying and highlighting how fun and interesting and challenging and all of those things it is to be a startup founder. What's the experience been like for you? And just fill us in. How has your life changed now as a founder?
Sure. Um, as you said, I've been very influenced by people on social media saying that it's fun to be a founder. Um, Now, stepping back, I think fun is probably the last word I would use to describe the experience. Um, it is meaningful, and you do feel like you're very aligned with yourself because you're actually doing something that you really want to do. You know, it's like very few people dare reaching out for their dreams, and you're actually trying to do it. So definitely, that's very meaningful, and that's also an incredible learning journey. About yourself, about how to become a founder. I mean, you definitely learn a lot about what you're able to do and what you're not able to do. But it is not fun. Like, honestly, my job, like my main day-to-day task is to hear no for an answer. It's like you go to investors and you pitch, do you want to invest in my company? And they said no. And then the next day you have to go back and convince other investors. And like you go to prospects and you're like, do you want my product? And they're like, no. And then the next day you do it over again. And then you go and want to hire people. So you go to professionals and do you want to become an employee? And they say, no, we don't know you. Who are you? So that's the job. So I wouldn't want to do anything else, but I wouldn't say it is fun.
All right. Well, let's dig into that just a little bit. It's, were you expecting that, or how? And how do you sort of? I guess a lot of people talk about imposter syndrome, and so before you start, you feel like you can't do it because you're not ready, you're not smart enough, you're not whatever enough to become a founder, and then once you start, at least what you've said, you keep getting no's as responses. So how do you deal with that? What tricks do you have?
I have a good example. It's a sad one, but I'll tell you anyway, because I think it matters to have a vision as accurate as possible from the truth before you start. Um, so what I wasn't expecting is that I knew it would be challenging because you hear it, but challenging almost sounds like it's fun, you know. Ooh, it's a challenge,
Right.
but it's not challenging. It's hard, like really hard, like 10 times harder than what you think. And even though I was prepared for something tough, and also because I didn't know what exactly would be hard. You know, when people tell you it's challenging, you don't really understand until you face one of these things. Um, so I find what is the hardest is that I naively probably um, initially thought that I would be able to focus just on that, just on building the startup, you know. And as a founder, very often you think that if you set your mind to something and you just go and do it, it's gonna work, you know. Um, the truth is that probably only 10% of what you do will really, you know, contribute and be the way you want it to be. 90% is linked to circumstances. Is it the right time? Is it the right person? Is it the right product? So you don't have as much impact on success as you think. Now, if you don't have this 10%, then don't even try, you know? So you do need to be a go-getter and really go like, yeah, you know, every time I have a sales meeting, Elizabeth is laughing because I look at her and I'm like, go, 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 you know, we gotta close it. So you do need this type of attitude, but it's not gonna be enough. Um, so what I wanted to mention, the example that I had in mind is that um, so you have other things that get in the way that are not linked to your startup because life still goes on while you're working, right? So, for example, if you decide to become a founder, you may not pay yourself, initially at least, because you can't afford it. All your money goes into the startup. So you're going to have to do things like changing houses, you know, relocating because you need something cheaper and you need to adjust your lifestyle. So that's going to take time and that's going to take your mind off of your startup. That's the easy part. Now, most people also have to take care of their family. And especially these days, I think that that's something that would probably speak to a few people. Um, in my case, my father got sick before I had to raise money, and he got COVID and he was in a coma for 10 weeks. And just before I started raising money, he passed away, and his sister passed away as well. Um, and now, when you know that you have to raise money, raising money means that every morning you wake up, you have to go and pitch, and you have to look like $1 million. Like you're ready to take over the world, like you are the best, you are full of energy, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, it's going to work. You've got all the KPIs. So you fake it every morning, you wake up and you're like, yeah, I'm the best, this is going to work, blah, blah, blah. And then you go home and you cry. And that part, um, you can't really anticipate, you can't really prepare in advance, but that's what the job is. So you really need to have a strong reason why you're doing that. And if it's like, I just want to become a billionaire, it's not a good enough reason, it's not going to work. But if you do have a reason that is strong enough and you really care deeply about the problem you're solving, um, you're going to become like the strongest you've ever been, because everything else will feel like almost nothing, a small obstacle. Oh, I've done so much worse. Um, then you will manage. So make sure that you have a reason that is strong enough.
Yeah, and I mean, that's just such a powerful example. And, you see people walk away from startups for under much less horrible situations than you went through as a founder. So my highest commendation on persevering through that time, and I'm sure it was very tough for your family and to pitch at the same time. It sounds very hard, but I hope at this point that things are a bit brighter. Um, let's talk about your day to day, maybe since then and since leaving the accelerator program. And as a founder, what has sort of surprised you, maybe in a good way, about being a founder of Nudge and your own startup?
The day to day is very easy to to summarize. I pitch day in, day out. That's all I do. You pitch to investors, you pitch to clients, prospects, you pitch to business partners because you want to keep working with them. You pitch to your employees to make sure that they're still motivated. So my whole day to day task, yeah, it's all about pitching, really. And of course, you know it before, but I think I didn't realize that it's really a sales job. Most of the job is to sell, and everything else that you have to do during the first year or so. After that, you don't do it anymore. You start having a team, and people will do the other things, like for example, the setting up your company, all the admin stuff. You're going to have a lawyer, you're going to have an accountant who are going to take care of all these things, looking at how much taxes you need to pay and who you need to pay to. And in France, there are a lot of taxes, so you really need someone to help you with that.
Yeah.
Um, and then Elizabeth is here now, in charge of marketing and communication. So really, the two things I do: I pitch to investors to get money, and I sell to clients to get money. That's my job. And I actually got to like it a lot more than at the beginning, because initially I was more interested in the idea of solving a problem, finding the audience, finding the exact right fit, and building something that would solve that. More like really problem solving, and getting a no. I wouldn't really like it that much. But then you start learning. You start liking it because you're improving your pitch every time. So I literally have an Excel file with all the prospects I ever talked to, all the reasons why they said no, and then I have the yes column. What should I tell to the next prospect so that they don't say the same thing next time? So that's most of my job.
Awesome. Well, let's stick to pitching for a little bit because, as you said, you've done a lot of it. What have you learned along the way about pitching, and maybe for founders that are coming into our accelerator, our second batch of the accelerator program, what tips do you have for them for delivering a fantastic pitch?
The most important to me, and I didn't know that at the beginning, is not to rely on your gut feeling, but to run analytics on your pitches. So it's really to try to understand after each pitch. Let's say I've pitched to 20 different prospects. What were the reasons for which they said no? So 5 of them, let's say, it's going to be about a budget. 5 of them is going to be about they're already working with a competitor. And the rest is going to be we never work with startups, only big companies, or we've always done it one way. Why should we change? And then second step is you sort out which types of feedback you care about and which ones don't matter. I mean, the last 50% of people who said you're a startup or it's a new way of doing things, don't focus on them at the beginning because they won't be your early adopters. They won't be the first client. So don't waste time on them. But the ones who gave you a real objection, that is valuable and acceptable, then I tried to make buckets of them and try to understand what each of them had in common. So, for example, for the 5 prospects who said it's about budget, is it because I went to pitch to them in January when they decide the budget in December, for example? So, is it this type of wrong timing? For the one who are already working with competitors, are they both working with the same competitor or is it with different competitors? Because if it's the same, then you just need to differentiate your product a bit. If all the people who are working with other competitors prefer them, then you have an issue with your product. So you really need to go back to your market, your audience, and ask them what they need. And most probably it means that you love your product so much that you forgot about the audience. You try to push your product without thinking enough about is your product really helping them solve their issue, or are you just in love with your product and you're pushing it too hard? So I would say it's segregating the no's first, and then based on that, you build your counter arguments. So every time, as I said, you've got this Excel table, and every time someone says no, you're trying to find a way to turn it to a yes. And sometimes you can just do some research. Sometimes they just need statistics, proof that what you're saying is actually true. But they thought that you just announced it as if it were a truth, and it isn't. Sometimes it can be just preparing the answer. Like they told you something that you were not expecting. Like, I don't know, I'm going on maternity leave, so I can't talk about that before the next 3 months. And you're like, okay, there's nothing I can do. But then if you think about it, you will think that, okay, maybe I can talk about this. I can talk to this other team because it's kind of related. Maybe they would have more time. So you find different strategies. And then sometimes when really your product doesn't solve their issue, then you need to add a feature or you need to tweak it a bit to try to solve it. But I found that doing analytics really helps, also because it's not my default mode. Now I'm getting better at pitching. So if someone says no, I'm just going to find an argument on the fly somehow, but it's a lot more powerful if you've analyzed everything and if what you say is actually measurable, strong, and you can mention where you got it from.
Yeah, that's really interesting about the analytics side of the results from the pitching. A lot of people have written about just having more equity in venture funding across Europe and the US in terms of underrepresented founders. I was just wondering, as a female founder in Europe, have you noticed any sort of just, I guess, pushback just because you're a woman? Or is it like not visible, but you sort of feel it anyway? Or how's that for you?
It's difficult to say at that stage because I've done a lot of money and I've started to go and talk to angels, but I haven't talked to VCs yet or to that many business angels. So when you do a lot of money, you go and talk to your friends, colleagues, family. So of course you don't have that feeling. So I think that's a good question for in 6 to 12 months. But for now, it's difficult to say. What I can say is that there are more subsidies that are now available for female founders. I've been somebody told me about this new incubator in Paris, for example, that is only for female funders, and if you get in, that gives you some you're entitled to some subsidies, to build your startup. So I think there are more and more things being done, but I haven't felt the pain from it yet.
All right, well, hopefully the support is there when you need it and you don't have to feel that pain. Uh, this one, next two questions come from one of our new business analysts who, in the last few years, he was working at a VC fund as a startup analyst. So he's coming from that perspective. He was on a global team that was assessing founders like yourself and their ideas for their VC fund. So he wanted to know, uh, pro- probably 100%, especially if you saw Paralect as the partner, you know. So he wanted to know how you discover investors. Are there platforms that you use? I know you said that so far it's been love money, as you call it in France. I love that term, by the way. Um, but how are you discovering angels or other early stage funds that might be a good fit for Nudge?
Yeah. So as I said, I've done a love money first. So I've got 12 investors. 11 of them are from the love money pool, and one of them is a business angel. So for the first ones, you go to people who um, you've worked with and who have seen you succeed if you can. So of course you go to your family first, and I've got two members of my family who are investors. I've got a couple of friends, but most of them are actually ex-colleagues from the company where I was previously working. And the reason why they invested, it's not really about the project, it's not about the company. It's because they believe in you. One of them actually didn't even read my pitch. She was like, because it's you, I'll give you the money. So it's more about yourself, and it's like you've already proven to them that you can do it and that you will do whatever it takes to make it work. So even if you don't have the right company, the right product yet, they know that you will correct course somehow and adjust until you get there. So that's how I got the first ones. For the last one, the Angel, I applied to a free online competition that was organized by a VC. They are called Creatella Ventures, and they organized a 2 weeks acceleration program. So it's quite quick. It's 2 weeks, and then you have a demo day. Is it 2 weeks? Yeah, I think it's 2 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks. And the goal of these 2 weeks is to put you in touch with mentors who are going to give you advice and help you improve your pitch before the demo day. So the reason why I applied wasn't actually to raise funds, because I thought, I don't have a lot of chances to get funds because I don't even have one customer yet. So, there are no revenues yet. So I went there because I thought the most important thing is to find the product market fit. I mean, that's the long-term strategy. Even if I get money, raising money doesn't mean that you're going to succeed. Finding product market fit means you're going to succeed. You're going to have recurring revenues, you're going to have clients. So I went there. The mentoring was great, and one of the guys is actually still my mentor today. So I'm calling him every few months, and he did give me a great tip, and he helped me improve the strategy when I go after school. So just for the example, because I think it speaks for itself, he had heard about some clusters of schools that have partnerships with each other and that are closer between themselves than with other schools they are not partners with. So he said that I should target schools that are in that kind of partnerships first, because if I convince one, they can recommend me to the 30 other schools they're working with. And that's actually what's happening right now. Yesterday, I had a call with a school, and they said, well, if we sign with you and if your product actually delivers what it says it will deliver, I recommend you to the 32 other schools that are part of our network, and I'm sure they're going to say yes. So that had tremendous value to actually talk to mentors. And then just for the fun fact, and because it always makes me happy to remember this. So I went to that demo day thinking that it's just training for the pitch. So it was, I think, 15 startups, and each of us has 4 minutes to pitch. So it's just the founder, a 4 minute pitch, and that's it. So I did the pitch, um, and 1 minute after I finished the pitch, I received this email from one of the business angels who was attending, and just 7 words. It's like, count me in for 25,000 US dollars. That. And I was like, wow, that's 4 minutes. That's pretty efficient.
Yeah.
If I can have that, a little bit every day, that's going to be great.
Yeah. Well, that's
Um,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, so that's how I got that angel. So the learning for me was that even if it's free, it doesn't matter. That's the first thing. And the second one is don't target the money, but target people who will help you find your product market fit. That was the learning. And then,
Super.
people just come to you, investors, because if you have the right product market fit, then you're going to have good KPIs, and then that's a no-brainer for them.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, a lot of founders like to talk about how much money they've raised or their MRR growing month over month and all this stuff. And it's very money focused. So that last piece of advice will be very useful for anyone to focus more on the opportunities and the mentorship that you can get, especially at the early
Cool.
stage. All right, Michael's next question is, how did you analyze the market for Nudge before you started and decide that it was big enough for your idea, or your idea was differentiated enough from the rest of the solutions on the market to to launch and get started?
Okay. It's a bit long. Sorry. Um, all right. So the main point is I understood there was a problem before I actually thought about building the app. So I wasn't trying to validate the product or the idea. I was trying to see if there was a problem first. And I think that's really key to understand. You don't go out and look for validation for your product before if you already sorry because if you already built it, you're going to want to validate it. We all have our biases, and if you build something great, you're going to find a way to hear that you're actually right and it's true. So you don't start from the product, you start from the problem. So what you do is that you need to find, as you said, a problem that is big enough to be solved. And the easiest way to identify that problem is to start from the problems that impact you directly. So in my case, and I think we talked about it a bit in the first interview, my first problem was that I was looking for an internship. And I found that the networking experience around, looking for that internship was terrible. I couldn't find people to help me. That's the first one. And this one, I knew it was big enough because I had so many friends and students who were also looking for internships and couldn't find one. The second one is that I found that the engagement within my own business school alumni community was really weak. And that prevented me from, reaching out to them, getting answers, and finding that internship. But for this second problem, I wasn't sure that the market was big enough. So what I did is that I started running interviews with schools and alumni, both actually, because we're serving both with Nudge. Because the alumni are using the apps, but the school is paying to give free access to the app to the alumni, just to frame it a bit. So I went to interview schools and alumni, and I realized that 95% of schools that I talked to said that they had some kind of issue around alumni engagement. So I thought, okay, so there's something to do around that, plus the problem of finding internships when you're a student. Um, and then I thought, okay, what about the remaining 5%? What do they do differently from the 95%? And these elements of success, are they transferable, or is it just due to luck, or circumstances? And once you validate that there are things that are transferable, that they are doing well, then you just pick that up and you try to integrate it in a solution, a product or a service. I didn't know that would be an app at the time, but you try to integrate it in your offer, basically. And then in terms of methodology, I went for qualitative over quantitative interviews first, because you don't know yet which ones are the right questions to ask. So I just picked 3, 4 schools, and ran a 45-minute, long interview with them to try to understand really a bit more closely what is the issue. And then you can send like a broader survey to more schools, and ask more specific questions, because you have a better idea of what you're talking about. And also because it's going to give a better impression of you if you look like you already have an idea of what it's about. Um, and so only after that, you're going to start looking for testers, and build an MVP, and then ask them if it's fine or not, and then iterate, build something better, and then go back to them and ask. But the key point is really to find whether your problem has a solution and not whether your product is the right product.
Super. Yeah, and that lines up a lot with Michael's ideas. He's actually written a blog post about this market research step, and we will publish it here soon. I've got my hands on the draft already. So I'm just editing it, and it's very extensive, and it's going to have templates and everything for founders to do this sort of market analysis. All right, so moving on and staying with the theme of analysis, what metrics do you track, and has that changed over time for Nudge? And how do you sort of use that data to inform your decision-making process together with the team?
Okay. Well, at the stage we're still focusing on product market fit. So we are basically looking at KPIs that shows that our product, because it's not an MVP anymore, our product answers our prospects' needs. So the key KPIs would be the percentage of positive feedback among our pool of users, the NPS, the Net Promoter Score, which is basically how many people recommend your product in percentage. And then the last thing will be the frequency of interaction per user. So do they come back to the app or not? So these three would tell us, are we solving their problem? Do we have a product that actually solves their problem? And then, as you said, it's going to evolve, because after we reach that product market fit, then it's more about, can we scale that product to solve the problems of more people? So then you have a look at the number of downloads, the volume, the number of conversations per day, these type of things. But then it's not only about the product market fit, it's also about your marketing strategy, your communication strategy, your execution. So as you said, every step the KPIs are going to evolve.
All right, well, that's exciting to watch. And yeah. I don't know if you want to talk about it all. We can edit this section out if you like, but I have been following the updates in Slack, and you said there was some interest from the corporate side in working with employees and ex-employees, and using Nudge. Anything you want to say about that, or we can just cut it?
No, sure. I can say a few words about it. I I have two different ex-colleagues who came to me, and they said, "Well, I've seen Nudge. I think that would be great for my own company, because they want to leverage the pool of ex-employees that they have, and they think that would help for business referrals, so that they would get more clients if they can kind of create a stronger community of their ex-employees." So what I've been working on is market research. So it's the same process all over again. It's not, does my product fit their needs? It's more, what is their problem and what product needs to be built to solve that? And I've interviewed at least 20 companies so far of the same industry, and the feedback is really good. The only thing is that I can't target too many audiences at the same time, because again the product is going to be different, because their problem, even if they are similar things, are not exactly the same, and so we need to prioritize which features we're going to develop, and I don't want to introduce competition between schools and companies. I still care about the schools and students and alumni a lot, so that's priority number one for now. But there is definitely good potential with the companies, and I'll just give you the preview, but yesterday I was talking with one of these companies, that I'm very close with. I have a good network with. Um, and they said that they would like to launch a pilot with us. So I am the one saying, "Whoa, hold on, I don't have time right now." But for the future, that would be good. So what I'm trying to do to be ready when it comes is to make sure I know all the key stakeholders in as many companies as possible, so that when it's ready, I can go to them and say, "Hey, it's ready, let's go." So that's my strategy.
Super. Well, it's exciting, and it sounds like Julie may turn into a serial founder in no time. So, um, let's wrap up. Last couple questions here. First, a really general one. What is your best advice for first-time founders?
Okay, I learned so many things, since I started, that it's not an easy question, but I think one thing that is really key is to build an extensive and diverse network. And you need people from different backgrounds and people from different countries. And an example where that was especially useful is that when I was trying to raise money, it's very difficult to raise it in France because French people are more risk averse and they don't invest if you don't already have good KPIs. But how do you get these KPIs if you don't have money to build a product? Nobody knows, right? So if you have people from different countries in your network, then if you don't find something in one place, you go to the next place. So out of my 12 investors, only 3 are French and 2 have dual nationalities. Yeah, it's really like the whole world is investing in the company. People are from everywhere, but that helped me a lot to raise money. So that's the first thing, to have people from different places. The second reason it's going to help is that you're going to be a beginner at almost everything you do. So some people already have some experience, like lawyers launching a company, at least they know the legal side. Salespeople launching a company, at least they know how to pitch. But for me, I had none of that, so I was new at everything. And it's a lot easier to just go and text a friend and ask, how do I contact a journalist, for example, than just yourself, kind of go to university again and do a 5-year master degree in journalism to try to understand how to do that, right? So really leveraging the network has been super, super, super important to me. And I feel a bit like I'm asking for help every time. But to be honest, you're also giving an opportunity to people, to people to help you. And usually they love it because they feel useful, and then they know that you're gonna have to give them something back at some point. It's kind of nurturing the whole community.
For sure. And I think that's definitely true. People are generally want to be helpful when they can, especially when they see that someone is taking such a risk, putting everything into a startup for the first time. And everybody wants to see that person succeed, maybe except their competitors. But everybody that yeah. Yeah, it's definitely not like a zero sum game. It's definitely more of a win-win thing. So what's on the horizon for Nudge? We've teased a few different directions already, but what can you say?
Okay, I can't say too much. I need to keep some some suspense. But so two things. The first thing is that we are developing new features for Nudge. And I want to thank the team for being so amazing about developing these new features at Paralect. So that feature is to bring more value to our users and also to build alumni communities faster, so to make it more efficient. So what we're developing is the ability for alumni to create groups around shared interests. And this is interesting because they don't invite only people they know inside their community, but they invite people that either they don't know, they've never met because the university is so huge, you can't know everyone, or people they've lost touch with and they really want to be in touch with them again because they've got great memories together. So we are working around that, and we're giving them the ability to create events to meet each other again, pool resources, help each other work on their projects together. So we are trying to make that even better. So that's the first thing. The second thing, as I mentioned, is about companies. So we're trying to have that other option. I don't think that would be another company. That would probably still be Nudge, but maybe a second product line or something like that.
Super. Well, it sounds very exciting, and can't wait to watch more of the progress along the way. All right, and last question from our side. This is a bit selfish, maybe, but given that you were part of the first Paralect Accelerator batch, and given that, like all humans, we want to do things better the more times that we do them, we want to make the second one better than the first one. What do you think that Paralect can do to improve batch two of the accelerator program?
You set up a pretty high bar, so it's challenging to find things to improve. To be honest, the experience has been really great for me since the beginning because I was on my own. I was building this thing on my own, and all of a sudden I've got a team with like 15 people who are both very good, very smart, and also very supportive. So that's been a lot of help for me. And even Elizabeth, who's just joined the team, really loves you. I mean, every time I talk about you, she's like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna talk to Xenia and Vadim," and she's all excited. Um, so even yesterday, when I was sending a message to your team saying, "Listen, I'm sorry, but I've got this new prospect, and then need that new feature pretty fast. Can we make sure that we're getting that out as soon as possible?" Her first reaction was, "Oh, poor Maria and Eugenia and Vadim. It's so much work for them." Sorry, I don't want to laugh at that pressure, but I just find it very funny that she's loving the team as much as I do. So on the team side, at least there's nothing to improve. Just to answer your question, John, what I was thinking is that we were only two founders at the beginning, but now you're getting more and more people. So one thing that is going to be great in the future is that if you can facilitate the sharing between founders, because we were only two initially, right? So I reached out to Mohammed directly and I was like, okay, I'm the other winner. Let's have a chat. But I think the more people you get and you involve inside the accelerator, the easier and the more valuable it will be to get people to share with each other. And I'm obviously really ready to help the new founders as well.
Awesome. Yeah. That's very interesting. I know that our plans so far are to keep just two startups per batch, but maybe we'll take your advice into account. I guess I could reframe the question though, because into a marketing perspective, because there's so many accelerators and incubators out there right now. How do you think we can differentiate what we offer with such a crowded market? And this is totally selfish. This is just for me. Right? Right?
Okay, you're just asking me to find the answer in 30 seconds. All right, well, what convinced me is really your team. So I think what you're doing with the social media strategy, interviewing the best people at Paralect and all is really a great one. Maybe you can scale that up a bit. And I'm happy, to brainstorm more about this. But what personally convinced me, I think I said that in the first interview, was talking to Igor. Like, honestly, 90% of the decision was based on that. I was like, this is a smart guy. He looks like he has good intentions. I want to work with that guy. So I think there's something to do around your team. Also, because when I was comparing incubators and accelerators, um, there are some others where I found that the team was really arrogant, not nice, looking very close-minded about the type of founders that they wanted. They need to be able to make their own product. If they're male, that's probably better. So, just a few things where I thought, okay, they have um, good KPIs, but they're not really people that I would be happy to work with. Whereas you're both really good and also super nice, and it's really nice to work with you. So I think I would probably stress that part. And then
Awesome.
maybe you can have a kind of referral program or something. I can try to
Yeah.
refer people I know. That would work.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thank you so much for those ideas. I will take them to heart. Maybe I'll get some more interviews with Eager lined up in the future as well. Um, but thank you so much for your time. I saw that on our outline for this interview, you've added a question for me. So,
I have a question for me because you're always asking me questions and I never get to ask. So I just thought about this one. I just wanted to have your feedback to like how was it for Paralect to work with Nudge and especially with a new startup that was really just a tiny idea at the time. How was the experience for you?
I can't speak for everyone who's worked with you so much more. I can't speak for everyone that's worked specifically on your team. Everything that I hear is that they love it. Um, But more generally, the whole idea of the accelerator program was to do exactly that, was to work with a founder that didn't have a huge budget just to kick off development per 6 month, development plan, with a founder who needed that support both monetarily and with the team to start their startup of their dreams. And we saw that we had a long history of success with founders like yourself, but that not everyone can just agree to the budget right away, right? So we felt like we were missing good ideas, good problems that were being solved by good people, right? We were missing this huge opportunity because of the financial demands. So that's really the dream of the accelerator program. And I feel like so far the dream is coming true. From my side personally, I love it because I get to talk with founders like yourself and Mohammed throughout the process. And that really gives me an insight into the founder experience that I don't normally get with the other products in our portfolio. Some founders don't really want to be that public about the partnership. Some founders are just busy, and I totally get that, and they don't want to do, co-marketing with me. That's fine too. But this accelerator program has given me the direct line into the founder experience so that I can take that and make better marketing material out of it and bring in more people like yourself in the future. So it's a great cycle for me. And it's been a really good way to get a lot more people on our team sort of into this product mindset and sort of into scouting, comparing to other accelerators, looking at the whole ecosystem and in a sort of changing the way that Paralect can survive and evolve as a whole company together. So lots of cool things came out of the process, and we're very excited about the second batch.
Cool. All right. Just on my side, I just wanted to say again that I'm super grateful for what you guys have done and that philosophy of being ready to help people who only have an idea and can't afford yet to hire a great team because you do deserve to be paid a lot. That changed everything for me. So thanks a lot for that.
All right, Julie, thank you so much for coming on the show again. And please, if you know any other fantastic French founders or not French, anyone is welcome to apply. Head over to accelerator.paralect.com to check out all the details on the second batch. And applications are open until May 15th. So.
Oh, my birthday.
It's your birthday?
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Applications are open until Julie's birthday. And then we will all celebrate with the new founders that have made their way to the accelerator. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend, Julie. Bye, everyone.